Well, I'm excited for the new members to join today. I see a few here, and Linda and Rich, Tom. Not sure if the others are, but we'll do an acknowledgement of all the new board members shortly.
Okay, if Mr. Malone is here, we're ready to start when you are. Earl, for the sake of time, do you want to get started? I can take roll.
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
I did hear Dave, the chair's voice. There it is. Okay, Dave is here.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you.
Just waiting for him to unmute. Are you ready, Mr. Malone? Okay, we're waiting for one or two more to join. Majestic just texted he would join shortly. Jen, are we at quorum?
Good morning, Earl. I'm on.
Okay, perfect. There you go. All right.
I believe we are, but we'll take a roll just in case.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'll go ahead and start now.
Start with that, Jen. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Ackland. I thought I saw your name. Okay. Mr. Allen.
I'm here.
Mr. Barkowski, I know Stephanie, your proxy. Mr. Blachek.
Yes. I'm here.
Ms. Bell. Dr. Bullock.
Yeah, on.
Mr. Camino. Ms. Kaplan.
I'm here.
Mr. Casoli.
Here.
Mr. Cherna.
Here.
Ms. Cooper.
Here.
Mr. Copeland.
I'm here. I hope you can hear me.
I hear you just fine. Thank you. Mr. Croft.
I'm here.
Ms. Ellsworth.
I'm here.
Mr. Gitlin. Ms. Harris.
Here.
Ms. Katona.
Here.
Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Mr. Lane.
Here.
Mr. Malone. Mr. Massaro.
Here.
Ms. McLaughlin. Mr. Melcher. Mr. Mendoza.
Here.
Mr. Nobers.
Here.
Mr. Pipitone. Mr. Pollard.
Here.
Mr. Rendulic. Mr. Rupert.
Here.
Mr. Stasko. Mr. Thomas.
Here.
Ms. Topolesky,
Here.
Dr. Washington, Mr. Williamson.
I'm here.
Thank you. A couple quick notes. Guests and Partner4Work staff, please comment in the chat box to let us know that you're here so that we can have the record reflect accordingly. Also, please be aware that the session is being recorded so that I may share the link with folks who are not able to participate today. And finally, please put yourselves on mute when you wish to speak. Please identify yourself first for the record. Thank you very much, and I'll turn it back over. We do have a quorum. I don't know if Mr. Malone joined. Earl, if you want to.
Yes, I will get it started.
Okay.
In the
Perfect.
meantime, Jen, thank you for that. But also, Mr. Pipitone, Mr. Camino, Mr. Gitlin, and Mr. Kelly are all here, just in case you
Thank you.
didn't hear them. Okay. Well, we'll get started. First of all, thank you, everyone, for your responses to my request for feedback, and make yourself available today, given the challenges we all face. I just want to thank you all for your leadership, your support, but also in a lot of cases, your guidance. As you know, there have been many changes, many decisions made over the last 2 weeks that have a direct impact on the work that we do. Closing offices of CareerLink and application support centers to a virtual service delivery model, and so much more. Please know that we continue to engage our local and national network, including Linda and the team at the Allegheny Conference, the Department of Labor, the National Association of Workforce Boards, and our partners at Midwest Urban Strategies to bring resources and big ideas to the region as quickly as possible. As we look at the national landscape, you've all heard about the record number of unemployment claims. Boy, when I wrote these notes, about 540,000 in Pennsylvania alone, and more than in the Commonwealth, of Pennsylvania, and more than 3 million across the country. I'm sure the numbers changed just since yesterday. There's every reason to expect similar, if not larger, numbers in the future as the virus continues to impact all of our communities. The stimulus bill, expected to be signed into law, will provide some relief in the form of cash payments to taxpayers and loans to businesses. And there's so much more, and we will put together that information in our resource guide as well for you. This bill also triggers extended unemployment and puts more cash in the pockets of displaced workers. We expect that legislators will consider another stimulus package mid-April, not somewhat through spring. In a bit, I'll talk more about what we're doing here at Partner4Work as a response to the crisis and to our on-the-ground intelligence we're gathering from our providers and partners. But before we do, I know many of you have asked for information from our partners at the state about a variety of things, but especially about unemployment compensation and flexibilities in enrollment and shifts in the way we do business to allow us to best respond to our local workforce board area and the community at large. We'll also take a minute to gather intelligence from the Early Warning Network, led by Tom Kraft, our newest board member, to learn about the impact on small business here in the state and in our local region. So with that, if we have any representatives from labor and industry, and Frank, I believe Frank is on, we'll turn it over to Frank Stasko and the team from labor and industry. Frank, are you here? Jen, did Frank respond? I couldn't hear.
He did not. Is anyone else from the state on the line?
No? Okay. With that said, I will, now that since we know our friends from Steel Valley are here until our friends from the state arrive later. A few updates before I turn it over to Tom and his team. Yesterday, we held a virtual session with adult and youth providers to gain understanding of challenges and brainstorm some critical responses in serving youth and adults during this unprecedented time. We know that all providers have switched to an online service delivery model, and we will continue to engage with them on a weekly basis or as often as needed. I want to thank Susie and the team for pulling it together and really thoughtful engagement and really strong, bold thoughts and the need for flexibility to remain responsive to a supply and demand workforce model. We have made a commitment to be as flexible as we can with our providers within our limitations and ask for a continuous feedback loop as situations and challenges arise. We recently launched a survey for the region's training providers to understand how learning models have shifted with the order to stay at home. Many of our providers already have virtual models in place. Hands-on training providers are investigating stopgap ways to deliver curriculum online, but also to keep participants engaged. Within the next few days, CareerLink will release an online survey for job seekers and displaced workers to understand directly the impact and help us identify and address service gaps. I look forward to sharing that information. In addition, the business services teams at CareerLink and our industry partnership developers at Partner4Work are working to address the immediate hiring needs, like the ones you've seen with Giant Eagle, Amazon, and so many others. We and our partners are working to immediately connect individuals. I also want to thank, again, Linda and the conference for working with us on some really bold conversations about service delivery and responding to the needs of employers that are contacting the conference. To help us understand a little more from the business community, I've asked our new board member, Tom Croft, and Bob Value of Still Valley Authority to give us an overview of their learning. For those that are unaware, Still Valley is the state's early warning network, particularly for small business and manufacturing, and they do so much more. Still Valley has been actively engaged in conversation with business and developing resources such as contingency planning guides, and again, so much more. So with that, I will stop talking. I'll turn over to Tom and Bob and let them address the board this morning. So again, welcome Tom to the board, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Earl. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So thanks so much for bringing me on the board. I look forward to seeing old friends and meeting some of you who I don't know. Still Valley Authority has been in business since the mid to late 1980s. We have worked with approximately 13,000 manufacturing firms across the state. We've helped to avert or defer the loss of around 30,000 manufacturing jobs. So we've built over those years 5 offices across the state, funded by the Department of Labor and Industry through rapid response funds. Our only job in terms of what we call the Strategic Early Warning Network is to save businesses and to keep people working if possible. So I wanted to turn this over to Bob to provide a briefing as to sort of the emergency program that the SBA is putting in place across the state to help businesses stay in business. Go ahead, Bob.
Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you very much. I thought I'd start with kind of an overview of what we're seeing. This ground zero is obviously down in Philadelphia, and I think what they're experiencing is probably about 2 weeks ahead of what we would expect to see here. 2 weeks ago, we were getting swamped. Our director down there had helped start up 2 very large manufacturing alliances, and we're still in a leadership role. So they looked to Greg for a lot of answers. And 2 weeks ago, we were seeing a lot of questions about how to lay off, alternatives such as shared work. We had a lot of workers' comp questions with regard to, telecommuting employees working out of their house. We had a lot of employers asking us how to develop a contingency plan. And, then there were what seemingly were mundane questions like, we can't access enough cleaning supplies, or we're going to get written up from OSHA. We're afraid of, being not able to sanitize the facility and take care of our employees. So based on a bunch of these types of questions and frustration at being able to access answers, we did a webinar last Friday, and we attempted, to answer them. We showed people how to build a contingency plan. By then, the closures had been announced. And, since then, the questions we've gotten are a lot to do with how the state determined what was essential, non-essential, because, a lot of these companies maybe directly weren't, quote, in an essential category, but they were doing work for companies that were in essential category. I forget what the exact number was, but the state got bombarded. I mean, it was in the thousands of waiver requests. Now there's some concern in the supply chain with regard to getting materials. We're getting questions, and we may have had actually a success down in Southeast PA on how, for these companies that were closed down, how do we convert and participate in the need for masks, gowns, protective equipment, that sort of thing. And we actually may have had a success down there with a manufacturer that currently was making high school athletic uniforms, who said, that they could very quickly switch to making masks. So, we obviously, when, companies are in that kind of position, we push them towards the portal for companies that want to participate. We've put a page on our website devoted to this whole CV-19. We've posted the webinar. We've got links. We've got articles on how to manage things. We've obviously been trying to keep our our voice heard above what I'll call the fog of war. I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but if you participate in the public sector, my mailbox is just swamped with 10 of the same emails, regarding new updates and programs, and to the extent that we feel like they'll help our manufacturing clientele, then we will add them, and make them part of our resource. On a local basis, I'm getting copied in on a lot of WARN notices. I know that with several of the existing clients that we're working with, one had no chance of getting a waiver. It's about 120 people. It was already, we had just started into that engagement 2 weeks ago. And it was a very late stage turnaround. And this is the nail in the coffin. They won't survive. Probably moving towards hopefully some kind of a distress sale at some point, in the future, where somebody will restart and keep the company here in Pennsylvania. In other situations, we've luckily had clients that have been able to get an exemption or waiver because of selling into either the medical products or the defense industry. But really, the consensus around the state, both internally and externally with people that I've talked to about the situation, is that probably the water's still going out to the ocean, and we're looking, we figure probably at about a 4-week period is when we start seeing the wave come in our line of work, which is, as Tom mentioned, providing free turnaround services to small and middle market manufacturing firms. We've been in 1,300 firms, not 13,000. And I think Tom had mentioned 13,000. I'd have gray hair. But I guess I would open it up to specific questions if anybody has them about, that I can answer with what we're seeing in our different regions. But right now, the brunt of it really is been, from an intelligence standpoint, and it's been out of the southeastern part of the state.
Again. So just for folks who are not aware of the Steel Valley Authority, so a lot of the focus of the authority in our 5 offices, and most of our field directors are senior level corporate people who have been on the front lines of managing manufacturing businesses. A lot of what we do is essentially is financial restructuring, but we also touch on things like industrial restructuring and successorship, finding new owners for businesses, trying to find new markets for companies that have lost their customers. So I won't go any more into that. You can go to our website to sort of learn as to the services we provide. We also have built over the years a network of investors who are investing pension funds, and those are national investors. We brought them to Pittsburgh on occasion to try to connect them with local development leaders who are trying to develop projects in the region. So that program is called the Heartland Network. The website is www.steelvalley.org. I think Bob's comment about the tsunami coming in is the one that we should all be the most worried about, and that is that based on some of the informal surveys that the manufacturing alliances in the Southeast have conducted, businesses are reporting that they're expecting to lose 20 to 60% of their business within a very short time. And many of them are saying that if this thing doesn't lift by June, July, many of them expect not to be able to stay in business. So what we're really going to be seeing is the possibility of, many of those firms that have been able to hang on are going to be closing in the next 4 to 6 weeks or something like that. So I'm sure that's going to be a lot of crisis-driven kinds of developments, and hopefully we can work with you to triage to see what we can do. But certainly the key message we have is if you hear manufacturing businesses in trouble, please let us know. You can go to our website. Again, that's www.steelvalley.org, and contact us, and we'll try to get to contact the business within 48 hours. So Earl, I'll turn it back to you, and if there's questions, please feel free to ask Bob.
Thank you, Tom and Bob. Really appreciate that information. And again, it's comforting to know that you guys are on it as best you can in these times that are new for all of us. And I want to turn it back to our board member, Frank Staskell from Labor and Industry. And my apologies, Frank, earlier, we missed you. So please step in, please.
Thank you, Earl. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. So I want to just take a minute, try not to be too redundant, but talk just a little bit about the stimulus package that's being voted on today by the House. Expected to pass the House today, voted on, unanimously passed the Senate on Wednesday. As Earl accurately mentioned, is that there is some relief in the form of cash payments to individuals. Also, the bill intends to greatly strengthen, lengthen, and expand access to unemployment benefits for a number of folks that otherwise would not have been eligible. So an example of that in Pennsylvania, I believe our unemployment replaces, the formula that's being used in Pennsylvania would replace approximately 35% of lost wages up to a weekly cap. And so using an average weekly income of $1,000, a claimant would, under our existing formula, receive a benefit of about $350 a week, or to replace part of that $1,000 a week that they would not be getting out of work. Now, with this bill, it looks to increase, add an additional $600 a week to that benefit. So assuming that this passes in its current state, we would look at that same individual who would normally be making $1,000 income on the job. Their UC benefits would be increased from $350 a week to $950 a week. The intent here, of course, is to replace as much of the lost wage as possible. Additionally, under current rules, a lot of the, I'll say, gig workers, independent contractors, and freelancers would likely not be eligible for benefits under unemployment. However, the bill looks to expand access, making all of those gig workers, freelancers, independent contractors much more eligible to receive some assistance under that program. Additionally, it expands access to a number of other populations, such as people who would be self-quarantined due to advice of medical providers, etc. Typically, in Pennsylvania, unemployment benefits would exhaust at 26 weeks. This bill looks to actually add another 13 weeks, potentially expanding benefits to folks that are otherwise without income from 26 weeks up to 39 weeks. And finally, it also looks to provide some funding for additional food assistance and some relief for renters and mortgage holders in terms of protections against foreclosures and evictions. The federal bill also looks to automatically suspend payments and interest accrued on student loans until the end of September. And it also provides some changes that are proposed for retirement account rules, such as 401ks, IRAs, as well as health savings plans. The bill's looking to put out about $117 billion for hospitals directly, and creates an additional public health social emergency fund of $100 billion. And that's intended to reimburse providers for related expenses and lost revenue in terms of dealing with COVID-19 issues. The bill's looking to provide $150 billion to support state and local governments. And of course, there's a lot of money in that bill as a business rescue intended to provide some low interest loans to small business and other forms of assistance to industries impacted. And finally, and very importantly, is that the bill does provide financial incentives to employers to retain their workers beyond the next few months. So as Earl alluded, our federal unemployment numbers were released yesterday officially. Record high of 3.3 million new claims seasonally adjusted across the nation. Out of that 3.3 million new claims, Pennsylvania is the highest number of claims, averaging about 10% of all claims filed nationally the last week. Just to put that into perspective, the first week of this month, March 2020, the first week we saw in Pennsylvania, we saw a total of 1,200. That's 1,200 new claims. Last week, we saw in excess of 550,000 new claims in a 1-week span. And this week, we are looking to exceed that estimates that were projections that were made yesterday. We look for Pennsylvania to exceed 800,000 new claims by close of business today. So as of yesterday, the Governor Wolf and the Health Secretary have expanded some stay-at-home orders to 10 counties statewide, and as Earl mentioned, this information is changing by the minute. So as I sit here and go over my notes, that may have already increased. So 10 counties statewide under stay-at-home order. That includes Allegheny County. Governor has extended statewide school closing for an additional 2 weeks. He's enabling and building a reserve of inactive and retired healthcare workers to bolster Pennsylvania's capacity to handle healthcare emergency. Also expanding access to telemedicine and mental health care providers throughout Pennsylvania. Now, in addition to the actions that are taken by the feds to help small businesses, the governor announced on Wednesday that he's making available an additional $100 million in low interest loans to Pennsylvania businesses, and he expects that money to become available beginning today. Governor Wolf also submitted a waiver to the feds to secure and to expand SNAP, which is a food stamp, formerly food stamp program. He's requesting a waiver to expand SNAP food programs to college students and other families who otherwise typically wouldn't qualify. There is, of course, a list of non-life sustaining industries that's posted on the pa.gov website. Those non-essential businesses are essentially to be closed to the public. Non-essential personnel are encouraged to telework from home where possible. Those that cannot are encouraged to file for unemployment benefits. There is a waiver process in place, and it's available for businesses that are classified or categorized as non-essential or non-life sustaining, but feel that they have a justifiable reason to continue to operate to the public. So there is a waiver process for that, and all of that information, the updated list as well as the waiver process, is posted on pa.gov. The PA career links are in the category classification as non-essential or non-life sustaining at this time. All of the PA career links across the Commonwealth have been closed to the public for the past 2 weeks. And tentatively, I'm waiting the official announcement, but I anticipate that this will be extended. Our collective employees in the career links are working remotely from home. That includes most of our partners as well as our state employees. We continue to serve employers, job seekers, largely by way of telephone, email, and any other means we have remotely. We continue to perform case management. We continue to perform critical posting of hiring needs for employers. There are a number of industries and employers that are ramping up and looking for additional help. Some examples, of course, include healthcare and related fields and industries, food preparations, food storage and warehouse and distribution centers, as well as supermarkets and other food outlets. There are a number of manufacturers that of respirators and personal protective equipment, as well as manufacturers who are retooling to become makers of those products. So there are a number of employers that are still seeking assistance. There are actually a number of pharmacies that are looking for additional assistance to make home deliveries to folks that are in quarantine. So there are a number of needs out there, and we're still working behind the scenes to diligently try to fill as many of those vacancies and needs as possible. Our staff in the career links, our collective staff are still manning, tracking, and transferring countless incoming calls. Our CareerLink operators keeping track, and we'll have some statistics available for us in the near future as to the number of incoming calls and the category of those calls. We anticipate the bulk of them are probably going to be unemployment related, and those calls are being returned to customers. So the bulk of our calls, as I mentioned, are UC related. I want to just preface this by saying that I am not a representative of unemployment UC, nor am I an expert of UC, but I can speak to some of the things that I know are happening and some of the conversations that are going on in terms of dealing with this astronomical avalanche of work. So given the volume of claims that were mentioned, UC service centers are operating right now, to complicate things, they're operating at about a 30 to 40% capacity. That's due in part to illnesses, potential exposures to COVID-19, as well as compliance with maintaining proper social distancing. The call centers are typically very tight quarters, and obviously under these current operating rules, that poses some additional health risks. So the centers right now are operating at 30 to 40% capacity, and unfortunately, the governor has imposed a temporary hiring freeze, which is preventing state agencies from filling some of these vacant positions. All of this said, we are working on solutions. UC is working to increase the telework capacity of its employees that could work from home. They're procuring the hardware, mobile hardware, computers, and secure network infrastructure that employees can continue to work from home. There'll be some of the UC staff will also be occupying some of our BWPO, My Bureau, Workforce Partnership and Operation. Some of the UC staff will be occupying some of my staff's state-owned resources, IT equipment and such that are located in the CareerLinks. So we will have some UC folks that will be replacing my folks in terms of using our equipment in the CareerLinks. My staff will be some of my staff will be lent to UC. There is an undetermined amount of BWPO employees, My Bureau's employees, are going to be on loan to UC, many of which have had prior UC experience. They will be able to help UC in manning their phone lines, accepting UC claims applications, troubleshooting payment delays, and so on. So to try to take a little bit of the edge off of this overwhelming workload. Also, we're looking to train and deputize additional staff, my staff and other state employees that may otherwise not have had any UC experience. We are looking to train, cross-train, and deputize them to assist in a variety of ways. We are unemployment compensation, UC and My Bureau are both requesting an exemption from the governor's temporary hiring freeze. UC courtesy phones are currently located in all of the CareerLinks. These tend to be a magnet for claimants that either cannot use technology to file their claims online, or they're experiencing some problem with their claims and getting paid. So we have a number of ideas that are being posed to UC, a number of strategies, and we're looking to put some resources, unemployment resources, out into the community to sort of de-emphasize the use of these phones once the centers are open, but also to facilitate our customers across the state. The governor did acknowledge that we're not doing a perfect job in this area, but we are diligently working to improve our capacity in terms of serving our unemployment claimant customers. Changing gears slightly, Susie had asked me to say just a few words to provide an overview of sorts about our CareerLink system in general. in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County, and sort of provide a perspective on our delivery services to our county and city residents. So as an overview, of course, the PA Career Link is the public workforce system classified as a one-stop system under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. It's designed to house multiple partners and service providers that are mandated under WIOA, the Workforce Act. And it's designed that we could provide all of the resources at basically at a one-stop system to help folks get reemployed as well as to support reemployment. So a number of partners, some of the mandated partners under that WIOA would include the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, our Title I partners and contractors, which provide training funds as well as intensive services, our Title II partners, which provide adult education, remedial, as well as assessment, skills assessment. Our Title III, which is represented by myself, we provide universal reemployment services to the customers as well as a number of specialized programs. And then, of course, unemployment compensation is a mandated partner in the in the PA CareerLink system. However, in Pennsylvania, unemployment compensation operates out of a call center methodology, and their physical presence in the CareerLink is basically by way of technology, computers that are located in the CareerLink as well as the courtesy phones that I mentioned earlier. So we have gone through a recent transition in July of 2019. We have 2 Title I providers that are contracted through Partner4Work. We work very closely with all of our partners and providers in the CareerLink. Just as a general note, I wanted to share that I feel like I've been through a number of transitions with partners in Pittsburgh Allegheny CareerLink one-stop system, and I'll say that this has probably been one of the most smoothest transitions that we've been through. I feel like we certainly have room for improvement in how we are delivering services to our customers. But I want to say that the team, the leadership team under Earl, Partner4Work, as well as the leadership, the leaders of our partners, collectively have been working very diligently to try to make this system as seamless to our customers as possible, to try to minimize redundancy in our services, and to try to increase efficiencies. And that work is ongoing, and we're very pleased with what has been happening in terms of building a better system for Pittsburgh and Allegheny County. The timing of this COVID-19 crisis is very unfortunate. All of that said, we're still working very, very closely behind the scenes to continue to deliver as many of the services as possible, and I think we're getting better at it every day. Having said all of that, I know that was a lot I'm trying to condense in the interest of time, but having said all that, I'll take a pause and I will try to answer some questions. I may not have the answers to all of your questions, but I'll certainly give it a shot.
Thank you. This is Steve Massaro. Can you restate those unemployment claims? I think it was 1,200 claims the first week of March, and then after that, I just want to make sure I wrote that down correctly.
Right. The first week of March was 1,200, and
Okay.
last week we had in excess of 550,000. So we anticipate exceeding 800,000 today. That's a projection.
Wow.
Thank you very much. That's mind-blowing.
Any other comments or questions for Frank from the board?
Yeah, this is Majestic. So thanks, Frank. Thanks for your work, and thanks for things that have happened on the state level and keeping us kind of aware. I guess from a city perspective, from a city governmental perspective, just really looking at how we what is the new normal, or what's going to be happening once we try to really rebuild from what is occurring. It's just a couple things that we're trying to kind of figure out with how we partner with Partner4Work and then partner with the state. So just a couple ideas or questions just about like, when career links open, how responsive will they be to like, you know, the needs of folks who are on unemployment compensation? You know, will we have a little bit more flexibility on the ground to be able to figure out how to get folks connected to jobs and the amount of time that they're on unemployment compensation? So that's one kind of question / point. And then I guess the other one is, again, given these kind of really, really unprecedented supply and demand needs, will the local boards have the ability to really like partner with corporations here and really think about creative, unusual ways to get people working again?
Thank you for the question. I'll try to answer that. There are several parts to that. So first, again, I want to stress that I do not work for the department or in terms of unemployment compensation, the Bureau of Unemployment Compensation. So I will tell you that we have had these ongoing conversations to try to increase accessibility to their services throughout the community. Up until now, the only way that a customer could access unemployment would be through either by filing their claims online on a computer, by online chat, by calling, attempting to call from their home or cell phone. And when those call volumes got backed up, each of the career links have a courtesy phone that has sort of a hotline, a direct line, if you would, to the unemployment service centers. So those were the only ways in the past that a citizen could get through, and they were challenging. And so we are looking to increase access to unemployment by actually putting resources out into the community. I don't want to speak out of turn and put too many details out, because I don't know where all of this is at yet, and it's just all a variety of brainstorming going on right now, as well as there's some work going on behind the scenes to partner with with some private agencies that would normally not be a part of this process. So I think that there are a lot of creative initiatives being looked at in terms of increasing access. That's for the citizens, to increase access to UC. As far as our ability to serve customers once the career links open, I would say we are still serving them now. We're not as visible, but we are monitoring all of the new claims that are coming in to UC. My staff and my partner's staff are actually reaching out to claimants that are filing new claims. Number one, to make them, just to introduce ourselves, make sure they understand that we are here to help them get back to work as quickly as possible whenever those opportunities exist. We're hoping, we're anticipating, we would like to see a lot of folks would wind up going back to work wherever their place of employment was prior to these mandatory closures. But the reality is that some will not, and we're just reaching out constantly, making sure people are aware that we're here and aware of the services that we offer. And even while we are receiving a number of calls at the career link that are really intended for unemployment, even though we're returning those calls, we're helping to the extent that we can, explaining, clarifying or explaining or responding to inquiries. We're also, again, informing folks of the services that we have to offer. And in many cases, individuals are expressing an interest in our career link services, in addition to their original intent and interest of connecting with UC. Now, I will tell you that certainly there's an opportunity for Partner4Work, all the local boards, to work with their local governments as well as their businesses in their areas. The Pennsylvania Department of Labor and Industry has requested at least one, possibly two, national dislocated worker grants from the feds. This is in addition to stimulus that we talked about earlier. So we're looking at potentially a couple of additional grants of monies that once the department would receive that, we would make that available through your local board, Partner4Work in this case. So yeah, there are going to be a lot of opportunities to help local businesses as well as to increase the level of services to our customers.
This is Laura. I have 3 questions, but I'll do them really quickly. Number 1 is on career links as non-essential businesses. I think that might have made sense in the first week of March when we were at 1,200. I think a different argument could be made as we cross the 500,000 line. And I'm wondering if there is any consideration being given to that modification, and or if there's anything that local boards might be doing to that end. Number 2, I am expecting that many local WIBs, in thinking about what is most efficient in their community, may be doing things that would require I'm going to call it an exception from the traditional rules and regulations of the program in these exigent circumstances. And I'm wondering if any thought has been given to creating any kind of an expedited process to give us that flexibility, sort of akin to what DCED did with respect to, categorization and exemptions for non-essential businesses. So is there something like for WIBs to give us an exception if there's a particular thing we want to do? And the last thing is, very simply, where is the best list of everyone who, to our knowledge, is hiring? We've all been reading that there are certain businesses for whose businesses actually increased by virtue of this and are anticipated to increase in the future. Where is that list, and how accessible is that simple list?
Thanks, Laura. I heard question number 2 and 3 clearly. I was a little vague on number 1, so I'll answer 2 and 3, then we can come back to number 1. So the question as to what can be done locally in terms of making some policy exemptions or adjustments and so on. There are actually some things that can be done both locally and at the state level. So, for example, one of the challenges that our Title I partners, and in some cases even ourselves, Title III and Trade Act, are dealing with is because of the COVID-19 and everybody teleworking. We have a state policy in place that requires eligibility documents to be signed in person by the applicant, by the participant. And we are looking for ways to get around that, to ease that policy restriction at the state level. There's been a request by Partner4Work as well as by other boards to see if we can't ease that restriction a little bit. I think that conversation is ongoing. It's above my pay grade, to be honest. It's being dealt with at a policy level. But I think that if there would be some interest and initiative in, let's say, temporarily waiving that policy, I think that would make things a lot easier for expediting some of the Title I services to many of our participants. Additionally, at the board level, we have a number of policies that perhaps supportive services that would help folks with transportation, assuming once they get back to work, their biggest obstacle is transportation. We might be able to help them for the first month to get back on their feet or something like that. Now, we have some of our local policies already allow for some of that, but I will share that we've at the operational level, we've been having this brainstorming session to sort of explore, what we could recommend to the board, to Partner4Work, in terms of easing or temporarily waiving or pausing some of these policies, or amending them even. So those conversations are ongoing both at the state level, and the folks that are engaged in the day-to-day delivery of services have had those conversations with our one-stop operator and some of the leadership from Partner4Work, the WIB staff. So I hope that helps with regard to number 2. And I think we'll see more on that as this evolves. You ask about a list for businesses that are looking to hire and expand. I'll say it's difficult to have one comprehensive list because employers are, they're trying to find the most efficient way to get people on as quickly as possible. Not everybody wants to come to us immediately or right off the bat. So as we hear about these opportunities, we are actually aggressively reaching out and trying to connect with all of these employers and businesses. I will tell you though, what we are trying to do is we're trying to stand up a separate, I will call it a landing page for lack of a better term. L&I is working aggressively to set up a separate landing page specifically for employers who are hiring as a result of this coronavirus situation, that are needing to ramp up quickly, an efficient way that they can post their jobs, an efficient way that everybody in the community can see who's hiring, who has needs, and how we can connect with those. So that conversation started about 4 days ago. And I anticipate, in fact, I think that there was a meeting with a vendor to produce that landing page. That meeting was initially held yesterday. So I think this is going to happen very quickly. That's what we're doing right now. That's what we're working on at the state level to try to expedite visibility to those businesses and those employers. And Laura, if you could just repeat your question number one, it broke up a little bit.
Sure. So just on that last point you made, I think one of the functions of the WIBs is to bring to the system information about local activity. And so I think some sort of a structured ask of all of the WIBs across the state to advise centrally if we are aware as citizens in our community of people who are hiring, so that information could make its way onto that landing page. I think that's a simple ask that could be easily done that might help you see the more unseen kinds of local needs. The question on career links was, I understood you to say that they had been deemed non-essential under the governor's order. And I think an argument could be made, and increasingly can be made, that they have become essential in light of the growth of the unemployment claims that are being made. I wonder if you have any thoughts as to how that concept might best be presented to the administration.
So let me, the career links fall under the category of non-life sustaining. And however, even though the career links themselves are closed to the public, the facility, the staff by and large continue to work. They're continuing to do this work. They're just not doing it with the doors open at this time. Now, the staff, state staff and partner staff are still considered non-essential. However, once again, everybody continues to work. It's not, I don't think that, I'm not sure a change in designation of the staff makes a difference at this time. Maybe it would at some point in the future, but I'm trying to, the biggest challenge we have right now is that we're not physically open to the public. So we're just having to find new ways to engage with the public. I'm not sure if that answered your question, Laura.
Not directly, but I understand.
This is Marcy Katona. I will be very brief, but I do think it's important to follow Frank's comments specifically to labor and industry work. The department, the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation is part of the Department of Labor and Industry. Just a brief update, our physical location in Pittsburgh is closed. However, our staff are all working remotely. We are a life-sustaining business listed under the governor's order for vocational rehabilitation services. So we are working, we are working remotely. However, we do have the capacity to serve our customers under the governor's order, and in connection with the existing providers that are still able to support folks working and in vocational rehab. I just wanted to make sure that the folks knew that we are serving currently about just a little over 4,000 folks at different varying capacities of their rehabilitation and job-specific needs, many of which are working in the industries that are life-sustaining. So it's important that we are still there giving the support. We also have about, in addition to the 4,000, we have about 2,000 in our process to access our services. So our staff are still working very diligently and safely to do so. And we anticipate getting an influx in our referrals as a result of the COVID-19 situation. So I wanted to put that out there to let you all know that we are active, open, and are a support to individuals and also the system in a whole as we progress through these different work weeks and serving our customers.
Hi, this is Joshua Palmer. I have a quick question with regard to what was just stated. When you say serving your customers and the fact that your doors are closed, is that meant to mean that you are actually going out and serving those customers, or is everything happening digitally?
Thanks. We are not doing any face-to-face service. It is all remotely. We do have customers that are working on the job, and in some instances, our provider partners that we provide funding to deliver direct supports are still able to do that in those life-sustaining, but our actual state staff are not doing face-to-face work.
Can I wanted to make one point of clarification. So prior to the governor's determining life-sustaining or non-life-sustaining businesses, and prior to closing of career links across the Commonwealth, I think most of the board members had received an announcement from Earl and Earl's team that we actually had a potential exposure at our Allegheny East office a little over 2 weeks ago, where one of our partners was traveling abroad on vacation and became very ill after they returned to work for several days. And there was a potential exposure to tens of people in that particular center, as well as customers that visited that center, as well as multiple other career link centers where our staff went to deliver services or have meetings with other folks in other offices. So prior to this, the statewide closures of the career links, we were already in a situation that Pittsburgh and downtown office and Allegheny East office had to be closed because of the potential exposure. Since then, we've had a second potential exposure of one of my staff that was hospitalized with pneumonia. This could have very easily gone to, within less than a week, to 3 offices. Indiana County was involved in that, number of offices being closed. So the precautions that are being taken at the state level are not specific to what we experienced here in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County, but that example reinforces the danger of what happens and what may still happen once we do physically open the centers back up to the public. And with the rush of unemployment claimants, we understand the desperation of wanting to get a hold of unemployment to deal with these matters. But that's going to have the reverse impact, the reverse effect of what we're trying to accomplish with the social distancing and trying to kind of contain this virus right now. So that's what we're up against. It's a catch-22, and I understand that it's not ideal, and it's certainly not where we want to be. But this right now, as we're all trying to figure out new and better ways to serve the customer, the buildings are physically closed to customers.
And Frank, thank you.
This is Laura again. Were either of those people confirmed either positive or negative subsequently?
Yes, thank you, Laura. Both, thank goodness, were confirmed negative.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Laura. So we've gone a bit over. So first of all, I want to thank Frank Frank, thank you for taking the time and taking lots of time to answer lots of important questions. On a couple things, we still have some business approval items to go over, and if it's possible, can you stay over for another 10 minutes? If that's okay, thank you. Also, I want to mention that due to overwhelming requests from you as members, in the near future, we will go to bi-weekly conference calls. That way we can stay on top of the pandemic and all the new information and all the moving parts moving forward, with the next call being April 3rd. So we will send information post this meeting. With that said, again, I want to thank Marcy for speaking up, thank Tom Kaufman's team, and most importantly, thank you, Frank, as well. So I'm going to turn over to our vice chair to walk us through some key approval items. And also I'm going to ask that our staff, we're going to change the reporting aspect of the agenda to just the items that need business approval. So Jack, Susie, and Kristen, limit your comments to that, okay? And thank you all for bearing with us.
And Frank, before we do our business, thank you so much. We know just what extraordinary work you all are doing at the state level, and we're very grateful and stand ready to help you in any way that we can from the local level. On general business, we have to do some mundane things. The minutes of December 18, 2019 have been previously distributed to the board. Could I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Since we're on this call, any opposition? Okay, they'll be deemed unanimously approved. The second vote that we need is to accept $835,000 in PA Smart awards to support the advanced industry partnerships in construction, manufacturing, financial services, hospitality and retail, transportation and logistics, and health care. Anybody have any questions about that motion or wish any discussion on it? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion?
Motion.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second?
Second, Dave.
Okay, all opposed? Okay, hearing none, we will deem that unanimously approved. Thank you. And I also need to report, again, thanks to some of the flexibility that Frank was describing for us, we have sought counsel and approval from the state to proceed with these bi-weekly special meetings that Earl discussed. And they will all be held virtually. They'll be advertised accordingly and scheduled until we can see that we no longer need them. So as Earl said, that will be coming up. And I just also want to do a shout out to Earl and his team, who I think have done extraordinary work. We all know it's that much more difficult to work remotely. And Earl and team, thank you. And thank you for making our participation in this so effortless. We really appreciate it. Debbie, can you do governance really quickly?
Yeah, very quickly. Just want to remind you all from our last meeting that the governance committee forwarded to the mayor and county executive, who approved for appointment new board members, some of whom are on the phone today. Welcome. We have Kevin Ackland, Pittsburgh Penguins, Rich Casoli from BMAC Trucking, Tom Croft, who we heard from this morning, Steel Valley Authority, Duke Rupert, Allegheny General, and Linda Topolesky, Allegheny Conference. So welcome on behalf of the board, and we look forward to your contributions to the important work of the board. I just want to make you aware of a resignation. Beth Powers from ATI, Allegheny Technology, resigned earlier this month due to work and her travel and other commitments. We really do appreciate her years of service. She has been very committed to this work, and I think will continue to be a strong champion for Learn and Earn and our other programs. She was a member of our finance committee and did a variety of things. So I know she'll continue as a local and vocal advocate for us. So I want to acknowledge for the record our gratitude to Beth. Any questions about governance before we move forward? So do you want me to give the report in the interest of time about Learn and Earn, or do you want us just to move on to the approvals?
Deb, I think maybe if we, I think you have one action item that we probably should.
I do. I have a number of actual awards here that need to get approved. All I can tell you is Susie and her team are working tirelessly on Learn and Earn. It continues full force, even despite the fact that we don't have the kind of normal processes in place. We have more applications than ever at this time of the year, and this is our 5th year of the program. So we can answer any other questions offline, but there are some youth-related actions of the executive committee that we have to acknowledge for the record, with the caveat that some of these decisions may be impacted by the crisis. So we'll update the group as contracting decisions change. So as you can see, the actions are to award 27 Learn and Earn provider contracts for a total of as much as $4.7 million. And of these contractors, 25 are existing Learn and Earn providers. Neighborhood Academy and Pittsburgh Learning Commons are the new providers in 2020. I'll just do all of them and then we can ask for a motion. Award 10 Learn and Earn Application Support Center contracts for between $2,000 and $8,000 each. All contractors, including the Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh, are existing contractors. Even though the support centers obviously are closed right now, they are doing a lot for the youth, actually via phone and online through email, etc. So they are working. Award a $310,000 contract to Auberly and a $50,000 contract to Kids Voice for a state reentry program between January 1, 2020 and March 31, 2022. And then, as you can see, last accept $130,000, basically $8,000, with an option for approximately $46,000 to be spent by June 30th in state and local internship program funding to support Learn and Earn. So again, these are all of the funding, contracts, and awards that we need for approval to move things forward. Any questions? And Laura, can we ask for a motion to acknowledge these actions?
Yeah, why don't we ask for first, is there any objection to treating this as one motion? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Any opposition? Hearing none, they will be deemed unanimously approved. Thanks so much, Deb.
Thank you.
Moving on to the consent agenda, there are 3 final acknowledgements for which we need consent today. The executive committee this past month did 3 actions that we're asking for consent for. Number 1 is the award of a contract to the Energy Innovation Center Institute for the implementation of the BankWorks training program. And that contract will not exceed $335,000 for as many as 4 cohorts. That's number 1. Number 2 is to award a $215,000 contract to Community Kitchen Pittsburgh and a $69,997 contract to Land Force for transitional jobs training. The third is to award sole source contracts with Grant Associates and Goodwill for Work Ready for the period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. The first question is, does anyone wish to pull any of these action items off the consent agenda for further conversation or consideration? Okay, hearing none, are there any questions with respect to any of these? Okay, hearing none, any objections or abstentions? Okay, hearing none, I think that deems them the consent agenda approved. Yeah,
Madam Vice
Earl,
Chair,
is that right?
my apologies. Yes,
Okay.
that's correct. I just wanted to, there's one other approval item that was necessary under the committee reports that we need to go back to. I apologize.
No worries. And I may have missed one consent item.
Okay.
Those are the 3 I have.
Yep.
We're good
Those
on
are all.
consent items.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you for that. I want to, under the committee reports in your book, and again, I've asked the staff to, so we're going to forgo the finance report and consider that. Well, actually, that's not true. There's an approval item there. Correct, Kristen? You're on mute.
Yes, there is.
Okay, let's take that up then.
Sure. There are 3 related fiscal action items that we need to acknowledge for the record. First one was to approve the transfer for as much as $900,000 in city funding and $350,000 in county funding from dislocated worker to adult for the program year 2018. We also needed to approve the transfer for $400,000 of city and $400,000 of county funding from dislocated worker to adult for the program year 19. We're using these resources more broadly by shifting the funds from dislocated worker to adult. We currently have a large federal grant for dislocated worker, which freed up some of our state money. And the adult and dislocated worker programs are identical, but it is easier to qualify for the adult program versus the dislocated worker program. So to be clear, we did plan on moving this money prior to the COVID-19. The third item up for approval is to use approximately $50,000 of our unrestricted funds to build out our Partner4Work's fundraising capacity for this year and in the upcoming year. We feel that using these unrestricted funds will help and give us flexibility that we need to respond during this crisis and in the future. This is a one-time action item that we're asking for. Are there any questions about these 3 items? If not, may I have a motion to acknowledge the fiscal related actions of the executive committee?
So moved.
Frank, second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. And lastly, under the committee report approval items, in your book, well, 2 things. One, it was referenced earlier that we had a banner year on PA Smart Awards of approximately $835,000. That's thanks to the renewed effort on fund development and also our IP work. And so in your book, Jack and his team put together an update on the industry partnership councils and the members that are now part of that, from employers to associations and whatnot, and also acknowledging the how the awards are connected to that. With that said, we put on RFP last month and went through a process, and we had a variety of applicants, and we the staff came forward with approval for Keep It Simple. I don't have the exact amount in front of me. I apologize. I thought I had it in my notes. I don't. Can someone tell me what the amount is? I can't find that right now.
It's $36,000.
Okay, thank you, Susie. For we need approval for $36,000 grant award to Keep It Simple to execute work with our team on our industry partnership work on IT, and also our industry partnership work on our public sector strategy, primarily working with the city and county and some other employment opportunities. So unless there's any other questions, I'd love to entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Quentin, second.
Okay. All right. Any objections or conversation? Okay. All in favor?
And I think, Earl, just for the
sorry.
record, I think on,
Yes.
I think on the last issue, the transfer among the funds, I think we just need to take a vote. I think we had a motion in a second, and I think just for the record,
Okay.
any objections? Anyone
Nice
want to
catch.
vote
Thank
against
you.
it? No worries. Okay, deemed unanimously approved. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that covers all of the business and approval items necessary.
Can we take a vote on the Keep It Simple contract, please?
Yeah.
And Earl, do you want to say anything about the team and particularly Jess Tribus's role in the contract?
Oh, thank you for reminding me. Oh boy, yes, thank you. That's although we've discussed it at committee level, the Keep It Simple team has partnered with former board member Jess Tribus on the IT side of developing a council. So we did want to acknowledge that. I'm sorry, almost slipped under the radar. So before we do a full vote, I know we have there's a second out there. We just want to acknowledge that former board member Jess Tribus is a member of the Keep It Simple team working on the IT side of that project.
Okay, any questions? All right, so we have a motion and a second. No votes on this one. Okay, with that, we will deem it unanimously approved. Thanks, Earl.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Go ahead.
Anything else, Earl, for the good of the order on this call?
No, we are at the conclusion of all the business items, and I guess we just now is public comment period. Questions or public comments?
Great. And before we move into public comment, do any board members have any questions, observations, suggestions, guidance for the team?
No, kudos to the team. Great work that you're doing and keeping everything moving, being so proactive.
Hi, this is Joshua Palmer. I want to second that what Deb said. You guys are doing a phenomenal job. When I was on Wall Street, I covered the public home builders. They relied heavily on traffic into their sales centers all around the country in order to generate sales. Obviously, most of those have been shuttered. I spent some time with some of their management teams in the recent weeks, enjoying their public conference calls. The reality is that they'll be very happy to reopen them. However, they are preparing for a world where drastically less folks are coming into their sales centers. I would just ask that the staff broadly consider what if post everything getting a little bit better, it potentially gets worse again, or there's just a material shift in folks' willingness to enter our sort of sales centers, office, and doing face-to-face work. As you guys do all your work, and I'm sure you're on this, but just thinking more broadly, in the same way some of the high-profile publicly traded companies who have big face-to-face operations will be doing.
That's fantastic thinking, Josh. Thank you for that. We'll definitely acknowledge that and on top of that.
Okay. And further to that end, Earl, I will speak for myself only, but I suspect everybody else on the call feels the same way. If our input would be helpful at any time before the April 3rd call, please don't hesitate to call on us. I think the anticipated employment issues are going to be possibly the most significant thing that we face as a state, certainly one of them. And so we stand ready to help you in any way that we can. And let me join with everybody in thanking you and the staff for just an extraordinary job. It's important that we stay ahead of this and not be reactive. So please call on us if we can help you do that.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. And so again, thank you all for staying on and being a part of this. And again, for your strong leadership and your guidance and helping us navigate this as well. So I just really want to thank everyone as we begin to sign off.
All right, terrific. Everybody stay safe and stay well, and we'll look forward to talking on April 3rd or before as needed. Thanks so much, everybody.
You as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.